Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust Television. We are now going to serve you with the headlines that are making the front pages of the newspaper this morning. And as usual, we will begin with the Daily Trust. And the major headline in the Daily Trust today is staying with happenings in the economy. Here it says inflation surge ravaging economies across Africa as Nigeria rises to 17-year high. Ghana, Malawi, Rwanda struggle with local currencies. Complementary policies needed to boost food production. Experts. You'll find all of these details when you pick up today's Daily Trust and open to page 4. We also have the infographics showing you the devastating effects of this inflation across African economy. And we have that of Nigeria year on year. This time last year, we were somewhere around 23%, and this time it's 20%. So year on year, it appears we are doing better, but nonetheless, every household is feeling the pinch of this surge. And then we have that of Ghana, which appeared to have stayed about the same point, 34.3% as at August last year, and still around 33.9%, just a marginal 0.4% difference. And we have the same thing with Malawi. And in South Africa, we have seen a spike from 9.7% in July last year to about 14.1%. Sorry, we are looking at food inflation and, of course, headline inflation. In Nigeria, the food inflation is doing higher. It's about the same in Ghana. It's higher in Malawi. And the headline inflation is higher in South Africa. Looking at other headlines on today's front page, presidency, Tinubu Atiku kick as Obi leads in NOI polls. You find the details of that on page 25. Dozens killed as ISWAP Boko Haram terrorists clash in Borno. And the third major headline there, we have Nigeria confers citizenship on 286 foreigners. You'll find that on page 24. It appears that, Zainab, as we have more of our young people jackpotting out of the country, we have other people who are also interested in the citizenship of this country. Very interesting dynamic.
Quite interesting to hear such stories.
FG to establish youth banks. You'll find that on page 7. ICPC uncovers 400 billion budget padding, 50 billion ghost workers salary. That's massive. That's massive. This is basically more than what ASU has been asking for to get back to the classroom. Buhari rewards athletes with national honors, 200 million naira. You'll find these details and many more if you pick up today's copy of the Daily Trust.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Nation newspaper this morning. The lead story on The Nation says Bode George, why Atiku may lose next year's poll. And the writers there say no justification for IU to remain in office. Tambuwa leads 326-man campaign council. Wike, Makinde, Dokwasi, Imoke listed as members. And you'd find other stories as well on the Nation newspaper this morning. Security Council recommends Nat force ban. Buhari governors Tinubu condole with Akeredolu over mom's death. And on page 5 and page 28 on the Nation newspaper, 14 Brighton, 4 Americans, 268 others get Nigerian citizenship. Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline project will create wealth. And so there's ASU is also in the news. Only concrete packs court can end strike, says ASU chair. Industrial court hears federal government's suit today. Well, these are some of the major stories on The Nation this morning.
Moving on to the Punch newspaper this morning, also towing the line of Daily Trust and staying with the economy. 20.52% inflation, economic crisis, job losses worsen, food prices soar. Nasima worries over rising prices, says companies face tougher times. Inflation spike will throw more Nigerians into poverty, says LCCI, that is the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You'll find also the photograph of the athletes that were hosted by the president's Z. They say that success has many feathers. You know, ministers there smiling and everybody sharing in the glory that were brought by this young and very energetic Nigerian to motherland. They are standing in the photo ops with the president and the Minister of Sports, Sunday Dare, and somewhere behind we have the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Alhaji Lai Muhammad, among other government functionaries. Buhari reward Amusan, Brume, others with honors, 200 million naira. And with other stories there, students block Ife, Ibadan Road, also lists pending demands. You find that on page 12. Lagos impound 4,694 Okada, convicts 1,490 offenders. You find those stories on page 4 and 5. Appointment of Supreme Court justices faulty, says SANS. The details of that you find on page 8. And right above the name marks, we have Nigeria, Morocco begins 5,600 kilometer gas pipeline project. You find the details of that on page 18. FG suspend third headline as aviation crisis persists. And Makinde Udom leads Article 326 member campaign team. This is huge. This is really huge. This is indeed a battle of the wits. And just beside the name marks there, we have vote president who won't compromise. This Jonathan advises youth. And we also have here a strip at the top. ICPC uncovers 400 billion fraud in 2021-2022 budget. You find the details of that on page 8. These are the major stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
Now on the Nigerian News Direct, 19.76 trillion naira 2023 appropriation bill. ICPC alleges 400 billion naira padding in 2021-2022 budgets. Uncovers 49.9 billion naira salaries for ghost workers. As Senate probes 1.4 billion earmarked for moribund Neomco. And then you see other stories on the Nigerian News Direct. Identity Day will leverage on traditional institutions to boost grassroots enrollment. This is according to NIMSI. And then you'd find other stories. Dangote Cement, 5 million star prize winners to become cement distributors. 2023, Shatima, Sanwo-Olu, others drum support for Tinubu. And then you'd find the other stories as well. NDP to generate 21 million jobs, lift 35 million people out of poverty by 2025. This is according to President Muhammadu Buhari. And right at the top, NCAA suspends Azman Air over non-remittance of 1.2 billion ticket sales debt. Federal government needs to address unabating drivers of inflation. This is according to the CPPE. Shell confirms CEO Ben van Beurden stepping down amid 2022 tight supply. These are the major highlights on the Nigerian News Direct.
Moving on to the Blueprint newspaper. And we have here the major headline as Odili Tanko Aboki exits, depletes JSCs from 21 to 13. That is the Judicial Service Commission. CJN Ariwola laments yearning gap, drastic workload. Body of Sands, fault process of appointing judges. Any delay in filling these gaps will spell doom for the judiciary, and that's according to Usman. You'll find these details on page 6. We also have there another set of photographs of the triumphant athletes from the recently concluded global competitions, the 2022 Commonwealth Games at the Presidential Banquet Hall in a reception organized for them by President Muhammadu Buhari, as well as the Minister of Sports. We have there particularly members of the Para-Olympians who have always brought honor to motherland. Other headlines there on the front page of the Blueprint. MDA's padded 2021-2022 budget to 400 billion duplicated projects, and this is according to the ICPC. Tracks 49.9 billion ghost workers' salary from January to June 2022. And reps query Pencom's 2.4 million monthly salary per staffer. Interesting. ASU willing to call off strike if Osadike, You want to know what those conditions are, you pick up a copy of the blueprint. And Tambuwal emerges Atiku's campaign DG. Udom chairs PCC, Wike, Sambo, Saraki, others, members. Ayu continues stay as PDP chair is suicidal. And that is according to Bode George. You'll find the details of this on page 8. Despite hiccups, 95% of Nigerian pilgrims participated in the 2022 Hajj. And this is according to NACOM. They are doing a prognosis, and I'm sure analysts in the House would give us a bit of this detail because he's also an authority when it comes to this. And then moving on to other stories, Nigeria grants citizenship to 286 Americans, Europeans, and others. DMO unveils Nigeria's 720 billion borrowing plans. We are expanding our services beyond Africa. That's according to the UBA Group Managing Director. Justice Ogumbi takes over as PSC, pledges rule of law. And finally, we have thousands queue overnight to pay respect at the Queen's Line in State. Like we said earlier, myself and Z are expecting our tickets so that we can also pay our humble respect to the departing Queen. And these are the major headlines on the front page of Blueprint newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at one more before we go into detailed review of some of the major stories on our dailies this morning. On the first news, 2023 presidency poll gives better Peter Obi head start over Tinubu Atiku. Predicts LP presidential flag bearer likely winner. Says Obi will win if presidential election was held today. As APC campaign council kicks, declares poll dubious. Then you see the story about only concrete agreement can end strike. This is according to ASU. Court orders INEC to recognize Akpabio as senatorial candidate. Buhari rewards Amusan, Brume, others with national honors 200 million. 2023, Wike appointed into PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Tambuwal named DG. Then Buhari confers Nigerian citizenship on 4 Americans, 14 Brighton Spanish professor, 253 others. You'd also find other stories on First News. Court orders INEC to recognize Akpabio as senatorial candidate. ASWAP sniper, chief prosecutor killed in airstrikes in Borno. Abusive wife beats up police officer in Lagos. That's quite interesting. If you want to read the details of that story, grab a copy of the First News. Governor Abiodun, I may become king after office. These are some of the major highlights on the First News this morning.
Interesting, from governors to senators, from senators to kings, and from kings. It appears that once you get into power, there's no looking back, Z. Reason why everybody wants to get into that small space, you know. These are the major papers we have for you this morning. We will take a short break, and when we return, our in-house analysts will be ready to serve you the details on the front page. Please stay with us.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. It's now time for us to have a more detailed review of some of the stories making headway on our dailies this morning. And we have in the studio Nuruddin Abdallah. He is the editor of 21st Century Chronicle to give us more detailed review of some of the stories. Good morning and welcome to
Good
Daybreak.
morning. Thank you.
They are quite very interesting stories on our dailies this morning, but I would like for us to start with the one about Nigeria confers citizenship on 286 foreigners. Here we are trying to run away from our own country, and then some people are aching to be part of our country. What are your thoughts about this?
Okay, I think it is nothing new or surprising, if you put it that way. Excuse me. And I saw so many, since the story broke, I think last week, the federal government announced the conferment of the citizenship last week. The ceremony was done yesterday. Look at the pictures. These people are not strugglers. They are not hustlers, to use the Nigerian parlance. They are well-established people. You can say 70 to 80% of them are well-established people in their various endeavors, various businesses and what have you. It is not one 19-year-old from Kano or from Ebonyi or from Edo crossing the Mediterranean to Italy or so to get citizenship. No. These people have been here for years, for many years. They even have, some of them even, I know one who has gave birth to all his children here in Kaduna, you understand? And he has networks of businesses, legitimate businesses. So that is it. Just look at the H bracket. So it is what many people confuse it with those, some of our brothers and sisters that are going to Europe, to struggle and what if they've been around. And don't even forget, they equally forget, go to the United States, for instance, go to the UK. We have Nigerians who have been there, who have been winning elections. A Nigerian won election in DC during the last election season.
Absolutely.
There are so many, we even have representatives. I know a friend, she was in this house, who won a local election in Scotland. So we're equally doing well. Maybe this is the first time that the team was given
Prominence.
but they are not hustlers like many of Nigerians who are crossing the desert or crossing the Mediterranean for, no. They are well-established people. They are contributed tremendously to the economy of the country. Yes.
Okay. I don't know what Nuruddin Abdullah is saying about hustlers. I don't understand that. I know they're here and they are hustling. However he chooses to categorize them is a matter for another day. We move on to the next issue that seemed to have made quite a number of headlines in quite a number of papers, and that is the issue of inflation ravaging African countries. Nigeria, no exception. We touched a 17-year high yesterday when the figures came out. My only problem is I wonder if you are the right person to discuss inflation, because going by your body size and your outfit, I mean, our viewers will be saying, is he the right person? Does he feel the pain? The way we feel it. But I understand you because I belong in that category. But this inflation seems not to be abating. The figures are getting worse. It's the 7 straight months that we have seen some hikes in Nigeria. The situation in Ghana is terrible. South Africa, it's also exploding in that regard. Costs of living is becoming excruciating. Households, are taking in all kinds of pain. Even in economies like Rwanda, that is being celebrated as a model in Africa. What are your thoughts, and what can we do?
I think minus Nigeria, high cost of living, food inflation, for instance, has been a recurring this month since the start of the Ukraine war. But our own case is different. Yes, our own case is different. And like you know, it's a factor of so many things. Poor economic planning, very poor economic planning. Just yesterday, I think, the DMO has announced borrowing plans running into billions, maybe largely to cushion the effects of the. But another thing is this: while food prices are going above the roofs, you know, other services, what is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the per capita? You understand? So that's the case for Nigeria in particular. Look at the exchange rate regime. Majorly, what many analysts are saying, you know, there is money concentrated in the hands of few. Look at our import regime as well. The thing has even created a serious problem, even between the top functionaries of the same administration. The customs CG, who is in charge of, who is the biggest contributor to the federal tilt, I think after NNPC before now, is complaining, say no, the figures being banded by NNPC as our consumption, whatever it is, not true. He needs forensic audit. Look at what the naval chief is saying when NNPC is accusing almost everybody minus itself for the deep in our crude oil production. He said no. And you know, for every layman, what the naval chief said, you know, makes more sense. He said, yeah, you do your budget on 1.8 million barrels per day, but now you're producing less than 1.4, 1.3. And you are saying that oil theft. He said, no. In the first place, you didn't even produce for it to be taken away or something like that. So in our own case, unfortunately, particularly this administration, they have left the economy to go rudderless, or maybe autopilot. It is even, there is not even pilot now. And even the monetary, look at the monetary policy. The chief manager of our currency, our fiscal, you know, you remember until recently, the last 1 or 2 years, you know, he has been engaged on how to become the chief executive of the country. So he has abandoned his primary role. You understand? So all these things add up. Look at insecurity. The major, the cardinal role, the implication is food prices. You must have food prices in crisis. We can't import from Ukraine in the last 6 months, even the wheat and what have you. And can you go to farm in the northeast, northwest, north central? Even in the southwest, southeast, where we had relative stability and peace, you know. Is it unarmed gunmen? Is it ritualists and kidnappers in the southwest, you know? So the situation is becoming out of control. So all these things add up, and our case becomes more peculiar. You understand, compared to Ghana. Ghana in particular, Rwanda you mentioned, they have just joined the league recently, most recently. But we have been into this mess for a very long time, and it seems that nobody cares.
Quite very interesting stories, I must say. Another one that seemed to be on almost all of the papers this morning is the one about ICPC uncovers 400 billion naira budget padding and about 50 billion ghost workers' salaries. Is this something new, or it has been?
What is new is the ghost workers. You know, because there are so many perspectives to what they call budget padding. You remember Dogara, and now this former lawmaker, what's his name? Abdulmumin Jibril, you know. What they call budget padding, you know, is not something illegal. Maybe it's new to many electorates here. because they believe that the president or the governor, is the alpha and omega. My concern actually should be about the ghost workers. IPPIS, right?
IPs.
Yeah, IPs has been there for a very long time, but you still have ghost workers. So what's the problem? I remember some years back, in 2019, to be precise, in this house, we did a story. The way IPs has been formed, is to take care of these ghost workers. The moment you reach your retirement age, it throws you out. That is it. But I remember at that time, a head of an agency changed her date of birth. In the civil service, you have the open and the secret file, There is a file that belongs to the owner that you can't change anything, your entry, credentials and what have you. But she had access to it because I think she was the head, she was the director, personnel and what have you. She changed it. But she got caught up when she went to immigration to change her passport, to renew her passport. Part of the thing she did was to change her date of birth. You can change everything, but minus your date of birth. You're born January 6, 1960. You can't bring it forward January 6, 1965 or so. Then they queried it. They said, no, you can change anything. You can change your professional address, but you can't change your date of birth. So that was the beginning. Then they took it up. We did a story. So, but we asked, IPs should have taken care of that. The moment you reach the retirement age, 60 years or 35 years, or which one comes first, it throws you out. You stop getting salary and what have you. And again, with the revelations before even this, the revelations by EFCC, in EFCC versus the immediate past Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmad Idris, they said that the man has even allegedly compromised the IPs. They said that he was allegedly stealing money from IPs. So it's a big problem. We are even compromising the technology. So we don't know who is now eating from remitter, who is now eating from TSA. So it's a very big problem. But that budget padding, the National Assembly members have the right to add, to subtract, or to change, or to altogether obliterate any part of the budget sent by Mr. President. Unfortunately, again, in other countries, budgets are being implemented 101%, to use that one. But here, who is padding who? When you want to do some project, let's say in Mr. Sunday's, let's say no, but Mr. Sunday is not the only Nigerian we have. Haji Azani is here. Nuruddin is here. Share this 20 billion among these three constituents. And you call it budget padding. Okay, how many have been arrested or prosecuted so far?
Interesting. Interesting perspective there. I hope someday that these systems will be able to see these ghosts. We understand that they're elusive, but I hope there is something we can do about the system so that it can pick out this ghost and completely clean up this copy. Another very interesting story on most of the front pages today would be the alarm that is being raised by the GSC, the depletion of the GSC from 21 to 13, following the retirement of Odili, Tanko, and Aboki. Is this not a genuine concern? What's this? Why is it taking forever to have these justices replaced, considering the number of cases that are waiting for the judiciary to resolve?
So I don't know why there should be that alarm. It has to do with the political leadership. The NGC is responsible for the appointment of these senior judges. And, the judiciary, particularly the bench, is regimented. If you go to the Court of Appeal now, in fact, they call people by their numbers.
Interesting.
Yes.
Number 1.
Number 7, number 8, number this. So it's a no. The promotion. Now there are vacancies. It simply means there are judges at the Court of Appeal. There are 120 of them across the branches of the appellate court in Nigeria. And they have their numbers. We all know the tree that will move there. Even though it's a factor of the vacancy is there. What do you call it? That's what we call, it has to do with the state. If, for instance, now you are from your state, now there are about 3 or so, then a junior has to move, you understand? Exactly. So that's that. So it's a very simple, seamless movement. But, you know, sometimes...
Yeah, but the senior science are saying that that process of recruitment sort of robs the Supreme Court of some of the finest minds that we have on account of somebody from your jurisdiction. They just felt that depending on your number, you should just accept that hierarchy automatically. What do you think?
I don't think that they are correct. You know, there has been concern, there has been agitations for appointment, particularly to the appellate court, from the bar. Not long ago, and even some nominations were met, but it has never been implemented. It is unlike the United States, for instance. The president can appoint anyone. But here, the judiciary has a system dating back to independence. And I think that system shouldn't be jettisoned now. Because when you bring it now, it will bring political patronage. It's just like the military. It's just like particularly the military, the police, and some of the paramilitary institutions. During the IBB's time, when IBB appointed Adamu Atta as the Inspector General of Police, do you know how many senior officers were thrown out? More than 21. Because he was far, far junior. That is why it's a military. And you know, again, you spend money to train these people. You just don't throw them away. That's why there's that hierarchy.
So how then do we take care of the concerns of competence? Should there have been a level where people who cannot become IG should not have crossed as a threshold, so that everybody who is sieved into that category is a potential?
I don't know whether the SANs are saying that the judges at the Court of Appeal are incompetent. At least from the law school, you join the bench, for instance, to rise to a justice of the Court of Appeal, and somebody to call you incompetent. I don't think that's right. They want jettisoning the current system will bring all manner of things. Politicians will misuse it. It is not like the state where there are institutions. Now maybe somebody will pack up the place with the people from his village, or from his ethnic group, or friends and families, for example. But now there is a system, and you can't rise in the ladder without being competent. You understand? The NJC is there. They hire, they promote, they discipline. If there is need for somebody to be sacked, even if it's a Court of Appeal judge or even a Supreme Court judge, the NJC is there. They have their rules. So you don't need to bring another confusion again. They will make it like ministerial or governorship appointment.
Quite very interesting. I'm really interested to hear more about the National Hajj Commission saying 95% of Nigerians participated in this year's Hajj, despite the hiccup that came with it.
Yes. What is the total allocation to Nigeria? Before COVID, our allocation was 95,000. Right?
About 50,000, yeah, there are 45 there, about
45. And roughly, according to them, they say 95. You know, simply a factor of they are admitting their incompetence. Imagine if we have that 95,000. We have less than 45,000. And for the first time in more than 10 years, some people were left at the airport. For the first time in more than 10 years, pilgrims potential pilgrims have to embark on demonstration. For the first time in more than 10 years, pilgrims spend more than 6-7 days at the Hajj camps. For the first time in more than 10 years, Hajj seat racketeering.
It's horrible.
You understand? So what are we talking about? Less than 45,000. We used to have 95,000. Their argument is they were given short notice. That is very ridiculous. Ridiculous. In the past, Hajj preparation started during Ramadan. It wasn't any different this year. Okay, if they said they were not the Saudi authorities, they were blaming everything. They are putting all the blames on the doors of the Saudi authorities. Did not look at other countries. Did you hear of any protest in Ghana, in Niger, Chad, Mali? Or did you hear any protests across the 10 big countries? I'm talking about Malaysia, Indonesia, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, Egypt. We are the only one. So I don't know. And unfortunately, people bring their naivety, clannishness into the system. And that's why they took us this back. Okay. The same management of the Hajj Commission, introduced the Hajj saving schemes. How many people that invested money in that Hajj saving scheme in the last 3 years went to Hajj? Whose fault is that?
Interesting. We're running out of time, but not until we get one more thought from you, this time from the political realm, which we have avoided deliberately so that other issues can have a look in. And that would be on the article on the PDP unveiling a presidential campaign council of over 300 persons. What do you make of that size of a presidential campaign? It appears like the die is cast.
Yes.
And by the way, Wike is part of that committee.
Yeah, no, definitely. Inclusivity. That's the word. And the number is not anything outrageous. It has been like that.
Okay.
Maybe when this has been an opposition party, by the time APC brings its on, maybe within the week, by next week, because I think the deadline is end of September.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a deadline, I think 27 or so, to unveil the presidential campaign council. You have to bring everybody on board. And like I said last week, I think the PDP, after the NEC meeting that endorsed IU's leadership, I said the PDP has moved on. They can't be dragged down by Wike. You understand? So now the choices are clear for him. He either remains with the party, or he jumps to APC or PDP. But don't forget, he is not a candidate in the election, but he has a candidate as governor, deputy governor, Senator Montefiore. So if he moves, let's say, to PDP, to APC or a Labour Party or even AFGA, what happened to his honor? Even his lieutenants, take Autumn for instance. Autumn is going for Senate, Ekpeazu is going for Senate. The most interesting part of it is Makinde for you. Autumn is not going for second term. Dito, Ekpeazu, and Wike. But Makinde has a battle ahead of him. He's seeking for second re-election. So if he wastes his time with the Wike group, then he has a problem. And don't forget, presidential election takes place first before the governorship.
That's right.
Ekpeazu as a senator, Autumn as a senator. Will they fold their arms and allow the APC to win? Okay, maybe the people will come. Presidential candidate, APC, Benue South, PDP? No. With the INEC timetable, this INEC electoral act is shaping a lot of things. You understand? You have to just be straight. The substitution of candidates, unless now by death, the doors have been closed. So you have to just make do with the
what you have.
Well, yeah.
interesting conversations there with guests who I'm sure the last time Ibrahim said he will become a member of, what do you call it, an anchor extraordinaire. We've been talking to Nuruddin Abdallah, the editor, 21st Century Chronicle, who has given us very interesting perspective on the issues that have made the front pages this morning. We thank you for making it to the studio this morning. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
This is where we draw the curtain on the newspaper review. We will take a short breather and return at the top of the hour to serve you more interesting packages. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that